It's Victory Sunday for the Washington Commanders as they beat the Las Vegas Raiders 41-24. We're going to be talking about the key takeaways from today's win. And so before we go ahead and we jump into it, I first want to remind you to hit that subscribe button, just like Jaden Daniels is going to be hitting Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, Zach Ertz, and many others for multiple touchdowns this season. And so in exchange for hitting that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Washington Commanders. And so make sure that you hit that like, you hit that subscribe, and you join the Washington Commanders Insider family as we talk nothing but Washington Commanders football. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump into it as we are talking about the key takeaways from today's win against the Las Vegas Raiders. And so I always like to start with just really the overall theme to the game. And so I think that the overall theme to the game and just really the key to the Commanders winning this was just great balance. I think that this was a team that had terrific balance because of all three phases coming to the party today. And that's exactly what you want to see, because this team made plays in special teams, it made plays on offense, and it made plays on defense as well. And I think that this is exactly what you needed from this team, especially with all the injury concerns coming in and just all the noise around Jaden Daniels and just really, wondering, was he going to play? Was he not? Whatever the situation was. And so this team was really able to lock in, just come together and really rally behind Marcus Mariota. And that's exactly what you want to see in an early season test like this. And this is why this team was able to bounce back against the Las Vegas Raiders. And so continuing on with this theme and just really the balance of it. And so, I love the first thing that we noticed in this, and that is just the play calling. The balance was there. And so I think that Cliff Kingsbury did a terrific job as far as just really the game plan for this one, because I think that coming in, I did expect for just a heavy run script, but I was saying that you just can't go into the run and abandon, just throwing the football down the field. And so you have to have a good balance. And so today we saw that balance, 32 runs to 21 passes. And so I think that Cliff Kingsbury really came in with a great game plan, and the team was able to go out there and execute from that point. And then starting with the running game, I thought that this was a terrific plan with how they utilized all the runners, because they utilized Marcus Mariota in this. They utilized Jeremy McNichols, Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt. You had Chris Rodriguez Jr. You even had Deebo Samuel out there. And so I just think that they did a terrific job just mixing in different runners. And I think by doing that, really it made it tough for the Raiders to kind of just really focus in and just lock in, because you have so many different types of styles and just the way that these runners like to finish and everything else. And so, we were led here by Chris Rodriguez Jr. He had the most carries out there with 11 carries for 39 yards, and 3.5 was his average. And so, it doesn't look like it was a huge day, but he was definitely impactful. And this kind of went into what I was talking about in the pregame, is just that, it's not going to always look great, but it's just like those are blows to a defense, and it eventually kind of wears them down. And I think that that's exactly what we saw with the Raiders there. And so Chris Rodriguez Jr. did a great job as far as starting things. And then, Deebo Samuel, there's that X factor coming into the running game. So 3 carries, 18 yards for him. So he had a 6-yard carry, or 6-yard average, per carry. And then, as far as the players that got into the end zone, Jeremy McNichols had a terrific run. He only had 4 carries, 78 yards, and a 19.5 average. But man, the touchdown run that he had, it was phenomenal, because that is exactly what you teach running backs to do, is always continue to keep your legs moving. You do not stop until you hear the whistle blow. And that's exactly what Jeremy McNichols did on his touchdown run. And so just showing that power and just showing that will to get to the end zone. And so Jeremy McNichols had a terrific day. And then I loved Marcus Mariota out there, 6 carries, 40 yards, 6.7 was the average. He did have a touchdown early on after a very good kick return at the start here. But I was just looking at this and I thought to myself, like, man, this looks like Marcus Mariota from Oregon. Like it looked exactly like just the same type of playing style that we are accustomed to seeing with him in college. And so I just loved what I saw with him. He knew exactly when to tuck and run, and I love the design runs and things like that. So terrific job there. And then also too, we got to give Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt props for getting into the end zone. And so 8 carries, 26 yards, 3.3 was the average. Would love to see him get some more carries, but that was second on the team, but he still found a way to get to the end zone. And so that's what it's all about. Ultimately, is you want to score some touchdowns. And so great balance there with the running game. The next, when you talk about the passing game, look, I talked about having to get the big plays down the field. And that's exactly what this team did today. And so that was great to see because, with these big plays, you had Terry McLaurin, 3 receptions, 74 yards, 24.7 was his average. 56 was the longest. And by the way, that should have been a touchdown. He was ruled down at the 1. And so if you got a chance to see that game, that should have been Terry McLaurin's first, but it was not. And so, I talked about him having the advantage here, and it's because you had good balance and you were able to just punish the Raiders up front in the run game. And so he was able to get behind the defense, and he made that Terry McLaurin type of play. Next, I thought that you saw a big play later on with Luke McCaffrey, which pretty much sealed the game there with that 42-yard pass at the end. And so it's good to see that, number one, he got his first touchdown. I talked about him being really an X factor for this team, but the fact that the team was able to just really go down the field, that's exactly what you wanted to see. And so, Marcus Mariota did a great job as far as getting the football down the field, making the plays when they were there. So you got to give him a ton of credit there. And then, when you look at just the team and its success here on third down, 5 of 10, 50%, which is what you want, winning on money downs. And so the offense did a great job as far as just playing complementary football and staying on the field there. 2 of 3 in the red zone attempts. And so that's exactly what you want to see there. So you want to get to 3 of 3. Obviously, you want to put up these points every time you're in the red zone. But still, those are terrific percentages. And that's really winning football when you're talking about postseason. You're trying to get to the Super Bowl and everything else. Like, these are stats that just translate. It doesn't matter what point of the year. You want to make sure that you are definitely, just ahead of schedule here. And so this was good to see that. And then next, just kind of tying a little bit more in just to the big plays that we saw for the Washington Commanders, especially in the pass game. 9 yards is their season high today. And so that was huge to see that the Commanders were able to get, 9 yards, per on their pass plays, because I thought that that's really where the Commanders would need to be, especially if they want to get their mojo back, with the yards per pass. You want to be in that 7, 8, 9 yard kind of range. And that's exactly what they were able to do today. So getting to 9, I think, was huge. And, one last thing with the offense is just a key note. Only 1 sack today. And so, again, you got to give the offensive line a ton of credit for just what they were able to do today. And just coming down and just making sure that Marcus Mariota had the time to make the plays and just opening up running lanes just for everybody to run the football well. And so now shifting focus and looking at the defensive side of the ball, I was very impressed with the defense and just really the front of the defense. I think that the front half, to me, that's been impressive. And I know that, we're going to talk about the things that need to get better on the back half of the defense, but just the fact that the defense has shown the signs that they have in the first 3 weeks up front, I'm so encouraged with this, because I think that the back half stuff is something that can be fixed, because the team definitely has the personnel to get it done. It's just a matter of just everybody kind of fitting, understanding the keys there, and just taking away the big plays and keeping everything in front, of them, which is what they didn't do today. But to not shift focus away from just the positive with the defense here. And so, starting with this front, I thought that they did another outstanding job as far as just really plugging up the run, which is one of the things that this team really struggled with last season. And so, look, I know Ashton Jeanty really had his best day as a starter. And so I will give, Ashton Jeanty his credit with the 17 carries for 63 yards, but it was only 3.7 was the average. He did not have a touchdown as well. So I thought the fact that just the team was able to really hold him was great. And then also too, just as a team, like, they held the Raiders to only 3.3 an average. And so that is great defense there for the Commanders. And I think a lot of, the stuff that Jeanty got was kind of like chunk plays a little bit later. It just wasn't something that he was just getting chunk play after chunk play, which you could see that with the averages. And so good stuff up front. And then also too, the linebacker play, I thought it was there for the Commanders as well, because you see that Bobby Wagner had 2 sacks today. And so that was huge for us there. Dorrance Armstrong, he gets a sack as well. And so, some good play from the linebackers making plays out there. And I think that because the, again, the defensive line was able to kind of open things up, you see that the linebackers were able to come down and make some plays here. Now, on the back half of the defense, that was a different story because, Geno Smith was able to definitely get some plays down the field. In fact, I think that that's probably what kept the Raiders in the game. Actually, not probably, no, that's what kept the Raiders in the game was their ability to make the plays down the field today. And so Trey Tucker, he had quite a day today. 3 touchdowns, 8 receptions, 145 yards. And so if you had him going in fantasy football, he might have just won your week. But anyway, he was able to get loose in the secondary. And then also too, Jacoby Myers, 3 receptions, 63 yards, 21 was his average here. And so he was able to get loose somewhat, not as many catches as he had against the Chargers, but still very productive. And then Dante Thornton Jr., look, coming out of Tennessee, we knew he's a guy that can stretch the field. He made some plays down the field. And so, this is something that the Commanders are definitely going to have to fix, is just really taking away the big plays. If they can just take that down and then find a way to get some turnovers, this defense is going to just help this team put them in a great direction as far as, just getting to its ultimate goal, which is winning the Super Bowl. And so let's see what happens. I think that those are some house cleaning things that the Commanders are going to have to do. I think another thing too, from a team standpoint, that the Commanders will need to clean up, it's going to be the penalties. And so once again, penalties not very good for the Commanders today, as they led in that department. 7 penalties for 54 yards. And so the Raiders, 6 penalties at 54 yards. And so again, the Commanders are going to have to play a lot more discipline, but a lot of stuff to like out of this win. You guys let me know in the comments what your biggest takeaway was. Once again, just the highlight here, we had Luke McCaffrey get his first touchdown. And then also too, we had Jalen Lane get his first touchdown in a huge punt return. And so that was really a huge momentum kind of shifter here for the Commanders as they were able to go up, by 3 scores or so. And so it was a great run back too, but just showing his speed, and then also too showing a little bit of the power there, because he did run through some trash to get in there. And so great stuff from Jalen Lane today and Luke McCaffrey. I thought that these were guys that could step up, but they stepped up in different ways. Luke McCaffrey as a wide receiver, Jalen Lane as a special teams player. So that was huge. And then lastly, before we jump out of here, just some notes and just some things that we will be talking about as the week goes along, and a bit of a concern here. And so, the first thing is that Terry McLaurin did exit this game. It was a quad injury, and so he did not return to the game. And so, perhaps with the game, taking care of and everything else, Terry McLaurin just really no need to put him back out there, but he didn't go back. And then you had Marshawn Lattimore. He left. It looks like that he was being evaluated with a concussion. And so that's going to be something to monitor, especially if he has to go through, or not if he's going through that concussion protocol, he's going to have to pass that to play next week. And then, with Trey Amos, this is definitely not a good sign, especially when you're talking about an injury to the calf. And so let's see what happens there. With that calf, that is definitely something that you do not want to play with. And so we'll definitely be talking about that as we get updates. Will Harris did not return with an ankle injury. And then, I think one of the more interesting things that we saw that I did not talk about in the pregame is that Brandon Coleman was a healthy scratch today. So he did not play, and he was healthy and ready to go. And so I wonder, just with this offensive line really, coming together, I know it's against the Raiders, what this is going to look like moving forward, but Brandon Coleman, a healthy scratch today. And so those are just some notes here as the team now will shift focus and get ready to take on the Atlanta Falcons. And so anyway, you guys let me know in the comments what you guys' key takeaway is from today's win. And look, as we always say, go Commanders, and I will see you guys on the next one. All right, peace.